Fatality.
Well, here's a game I haven't touched in years. Zapper, One Wicked Cricket. I remember this game from a demo disc that I used to own. It was featured alongside Rayman 3 and Mark of Kree, as well as another game that I've only just recently acquired called Dr. Muto. I remember only being able to buy one of these games at the time, and it was obvious that I was going to pick Rayman 3. The other two were huge gambles, and either way, I'm just glad that I didn't pick Zapper. Now I know that sounds like I've given my impressions of this game away right off the bat, but don't worry, it goes a little deeper than that. Zapper is a platformer, as you can probably tell, but it's done in a different style than what most people are used to. It's like a bigger budget version of Frogger on Atari. You hop from space to space and try to avoid getting smushed by various objects. I think it would be worth mentioning at this point that it's almost like Mortal Kombat in terms of how brutal the main character is punished for failing. He can get sliced in half, decapitated, torn limb from limb, squashed, and even have all the skin ripped from his bones. I mean, Jesus Christ. In fact, how appropriate, because I'm starting to have New Testament flashbacks. So the game starts off with this cutscene. Zapper is watching television with his brother Zipper, who I only found out was his brother at the end of the game when the main bad guy mentions it. His name isn't mentioned in the game before that point, as everyone speaks in gibberish. Gibberish dialogue is quite common in platformers like Rayman, for example, with its recent game Rayman Origins and that other one on the Wii. To be honest, I'm not sure if I like it or not, but it's not really that much of a problem. I just hate it when franchises like Rayman start off with dialogue-fueled cutscenes, but are then reduced to having nothing but grunts and groans later down the line. Anyway, Zapper's brother, Zipper, is kidnapped by a magpie named Maggie, who steals shit and then leaves eggs at the scene of the crime as a calling card. I noticed at the end of this cutscene it shows you Zapper looking out of his window, and the background hasn't even been filled in, it's just a blue square. Like, what, did they think that we wouldn't notice? Or did they just hope that we wouldn't? Who the fuck knows? Anyway, Zapper loves his brother a lot, because without him he has no way of intercepting signals on his television. Yeah, he's a bit of a prick. You know what, I'm starting to think that the brutal deaths are completely justified. So this is where I talk about the gameplay. You'll be glad to know that the pesky story isn't going to get in the way for some time now. So you're probably thinking, okay, this looks like your standard platformer. In fact, it looks a little too standard. Like this is one of those Land Before Time anti-challenge games. So what's the catch? Well, remember when I said that this game is like Frogger? Well, it turns out that this game's controls are exactly like Frogger. In order to move forward in this game, you have to press on the D-pad. Oh, hold on. Forward. Left. Down. Right. Now you're probably thinking, that's not that much of a problem, right? Well, try imagining having to do this every time you move. Yeah. Okay, so you're probably thinking that the control is a little awkward, but as I said, this is a Frogger clone. Of course it's going to be that way. Well, let me explain it to you. Frogger had a total of one screen, one level, and the average game lasted a few minutes at best. In this game, you have to navigate entire worlds, hopping through them one square at a time like a friggin' chess piece. This especially becomes problematic when you face situations like this one. Here there's a bee or a wasp or whatever whatever you want to fucking call it, coming towards me. There's no way through it. If it touches me once, I'm dead. But wait a minute. If I rotate to the left or to the right by tapping the triggers, I can hop onto these sunbathing beavers. Fuck it, if it keeps me afloat, I won't question it. So I hop onto this beaver's belly, but as you can see, this causes some problems, as now it's barely keeping me afloat. I have to get off this thing before it sinks. So I have to turn myself 90 degrees to the left or to the right at this point. But which way is right? If you get it wrong, you face the wrong way and you're dead. If you get it right, there's a chance that you'll be so perplexed by the fact that you got it right to begin with that you won't be able to react fast enough to stop yourself from sinking. This control scheme isn't impossible to work with. It's not too hard to get the hang of it, and I can imagine that anyone could get the hang of it eventually. And hell, if you dedicated a great deal of time into it, you could probably master it, and these sort of situations just won't be a problem at all. But I had another problem. The save feature wasn't working. Or to be more specific, I couldn't use it. Now this is the biggest load of shit I've encountered. It turns out that as soon as you load up the game, it asks you if you want to create a save file. Well fucking duh, what do you think? Anyone's instinct is to just hit the A button to confirm, right? Well, if you read the message, you'll see that the A button actually declines the offer to save, and B accepts it. What kind of fucking bullshit is that? Have you ever heard of a situation where the A button says no and the B button says yes? Obviously not. In any other game, it's the opposite way. How are you supposed to know that? I mean, yeah, okay, it's my fault for not reading it, but I don't need to, because every single offer I've ever had over the last 21 years of me playing fucking games has all had that exact same system. But no, they just decided to flip it on its head, because why fucking not invent the wheel again and confuse anybody who dares try and play your shitty game? This is the equivalent of the X button on PlayStation denying something and the circle button accepting it. Any other game, it's the other way around. So obviously it's going to cause some confusion. I originally thought there was something wrong with the game or the hard drive or something, because this whole video has been one long strange chain of technical fuck-ups. For example, the first time I played this game, the video footage recorded off my computer also didn't process. It simply vanished. So without the game or the video footage, who's to say that it even did it at all? Now that's some spooky shit, man. So the objective of this game is to hop around and collect magpie bitches' eggs. Seems like a simple concept, and it is. Only the eggs can be hidden in some of the shittiest of places. For example, in one instance, I was truly stumped as to where the egg could be. I looked all over the level, pretty much did it in reverse, and pretty much did the level front and back in order to find it again. And eventually, I found that it was in one of these upside down plant pots. Now I wasn't even aware that these pots were breakable, they look like simple props. But no, apparently they have items inside of them that are needed to finish the game. Now none of these other plant pots have eggs inside them or really anything worth shitting on. So it's just some cryptic bullshit designed to annoy the fuck out of anyone who plays this level. You know what, I think I'm being too much of a downer on this game, and if I had to say something positive, I'd say that the music is great. It's really energetic and lively, and somewhat unique. I think I love it to the point that it actually kept me going throughout the game as I hopped through, just getting more and more frustrated. I can also say that the game is also quite creative. The enemies are quite crazy and weirdly designed to the point they're actually kind of funny or interesting. Especially in the later levels when you have these weird chicken ghosts that give out a half-arsed ooh sound. Right, back to nitpicking. Another thing that annoys the fuck out of me, these tutorial squares. If you step on one, you can't use any of the A, B, X or Y buttons whilst you're on it. Meaning that you can't attack or super jump or do anything. Jesus H Christ, this is like chess. Well, whilst you stood on one, your weird cricket friends tell you shit that you already know, making them your worst enemy. It kinda reminds me of those squares in the Hyper Scan Ben 10 game. You know, the ones that constantly stop you every 10 seconds. They're just the fucking worst. It's funny because your friends are your worst enemies in this game. They stop you from attacking many threats in the area or jumping over them, and they can actually hinder your progress as you hop through the world. Zapper has some weird friends as well, especially this one who's some sort of robot cricket. Now on the one hand, I'm glad that this game is quite diverse and has synthetic characters. It's not even addressed that he's an android at all, and I think that's pretty cool, because in this day and age, androids aren't really depicted in the most positive of lights. The only other games that I can think of that do this are Fallout 4 and Mass Effect 3. But on the other hand, why is his friend a fucking robot? What sense does it even make? Couldn't the game be about him? Like, where did he even come from? Why are his friends cool about it? Why is it not addressed in any shape or form? Maybe we're just saving him from the sequel, but who even knows at this point? Hell, you can play as these friend characters in the multiplayer mode. Just out of curiosity, I decided to check it out with my friend, and it's... well, it's not terrible, but it's got its problems. For a start, like in the main campaign, you can jump on your friend and pin them to the floor. It's pretty funny in the single player campaign, and it's a pretty good way of getting back at your enemies. But the problem is that in multiplayer, it's pretty much an exploit. If you score a point and then pin your friend down to the floor, there's fuck all that they can do about it. You can score 1 point and then just waste the rest of the time just by pinning your opponent down. It's not like there's a reversal button or a rule to disqualify players for doing it. Have you ever heard of such bullshit? Like, imagine a game of football where one team just pins the others to the floor like it's WWE and just wait for the timer to run out. If I had to describe the single player mode in this game with one word, it would be tedious. Half the time that I died, it was because of some stupid move on my part, like over jumping steps and jumping in the path of an enemy, but that was because I just didn't have the patience to wait for safe passage to navigate through the game. It's basically a choice of dying prematurely by jumping into the path of an enemy with a small chance that you can avoid him entirely, or dying of old age waiting for the twat bandit to slowly slither by you or scurry past you or whatever the enemy is. Hell, there are several moments where you're stuck behind an enemy, moving with them at their pace. This game is supposed to be fast paced, not a crawling through broken glass simulator. Just fucking move! Another thing that I hate and love about this game is that you're able to make your own checkpoints. Normally this would be a good thing, as every time you get an egg it saves it, and every time you die you go back to that last egg. That's a good thing, right? Well, yes and no. It means that if you get what should be the last egg in the level but you realise that you missed one along the way, you're going to have to backtrack to the end of the level in order to find it. And so, if you die, you get sent back to the very end of the level and have to go back the way you fucking came. It's so frustrating. And I think that being able to walk from checkpoint to checkpoint would probably fix this problem. It's not difficult, it's just frustrating, like everything else in this game. It's why I find it difficult to say as to whether or not I hate this game or not, and whether or not it's a bad game. On the one hand, it's unforgiving, brutal, and hard as shit, but on the other hand, it can be beaten in just under 2 hours, depending on skill level and depending on whether or not you get the collectibles, though I wouldn't recommend torturing yourself over them, as they don't really seem to do anything. I beat the whole game from start to finish, just short of 2 hours, but I can't say that I had fun doing that. This is more the type of game I'd recommend coming back to after an hour or two's break, when you aren't as frustrated with it. Also, I had no idea when I mentioned this, but there is a part in the game when you're on a train and you have to hop over grilled sausages and vegetables. Yeah, it's fucking awesome. I feel like the graphics are good for the time and stand out pretty well. There are a few instances where they cause confusion, like at one point I ended up in a secret area and couldn't find the exit because it was like a painted on strip on one of the many wooden panels that acted as walls. But apart from that, I have no real complaints as far as the graphics go. Another thing that I love is that when you get in front of the train, you can see that the train has a giant eye on the front of it. And when you electrocute said eye, it gives you lives. I don't recall taking anything this morning, but whatever I took, I want more of it. There are several moments when the objects look like you can jump onto them, but you can't. This grey girder thing, or this thing inside Jada Franson's mouth looks like a regular super jump, but it's actually impossible. Of course, silly me, I forgot that it was too easy. If in doubt, take the tedious route. The end of this desert world is where things get really weird, since you have to flee a herd of stampeding cows without bumping into the cacti. Now, ignoring the fact that the crickets and cows in this universe are the same side, this mission still makes no sense. How come these cacti hurt you, but these flower ones don't? It truly boggles the mind. I mean, what did they think that this part of the cactus was made out of? So I originally thought that I was fucked when I got to this point. I had to complete one of those kill the magpie fetus puzzles with a herd of rampaging bovine rushing my way, but thankfully they were polite enough to stop at this crossing thing. There's 3 types of eggs. There's the stationary collector's items, there's the half-hatched eggs, and there's the fully hatched ones. From the looks of it, Zapper crushes them, which makes me wonder if this is the bird equivalent of a forced abortion. I mean, this game is dark enough to go down that route at times. Like, he's stepping on an egg and killing the chick inside it, and if the thing hatches, he's electrocuting it to stun it and then killing it. Oh, and if it's fully hatched, he just straight up murders it. Bloody hell. Well, I would care more and be more outraged, but these eggs are fucking annoying. I mean, the semi-hatched ones can kill you if you touch them. Like, how is it killing me? It doesn't even have the means to kill me. What am I dying from? Cholesterol? These baby ones are even more annoying, as every time you move towards them, they hop away one square at a time, which is incredibly annoying. The only way to kill them is by trapping them in a corner, or double jumping to the point that you're side by side. Unlike Jackass here, who follows you square by square like some sort of ultimate chess king-off, the bird doesn't move when you rotate, giving you the advantage. And if you have the super lightning bolt, then it's easier still, since you can just take him out from 2 squares away. The whole thing with the eggs is also baffling. Since birds lay eggs a lot, sure, but they aren't going to have a chick in them every time unless they're fertilised. So it raises the question as to how much sex this magpie is having. You know what, fuck it, never mind, I don't really want to know. The next area is the laboratory, which is where most games in the early 2000s ended up on the last mission. These missions involve a puzzle which involves lasers and mirrors, which kind of reminds me of Portal 2 and the Far Harbor DLC from Fallout 4, and I kind of like this, but at the same time it's annoying as shit, since the lasers instantly kill you if you activate them and cause the lasers to fire in your direction. Now, to quote Lewis from Left 4 Dead, that's some country ass bullshit. The puzzles aren't especially challenging either, but at least they were trying to change up the game here, and I can respect that. Level 4 on the other hand is where things get really fucked up. The level is called Pipe Works, with an E instead of the O and an X instead of the K. Well, at least they got 2 out of 4 of the letters right, so gotta give them credit for that. But just you wait and see what's in store. The game changes into a 3D underwater robot game. Now the rules are completely different. You're constantly being propelled forward like you've been flushed down a toilet, and you can only control as to whether or not you move to the left or to the right, with some of the most jerky ass controls I've seen since Little Britain. The game gets very generous with the extra lives, but good luck catching them, since if you haven't planned your course from the get-go, you'll just pass straight through them. It's like this game punishes you for being indecisive. Of course, when you crash into the level's many hazards, you always hit them without issue, because this game just hates you. I have no idea what's even going on here. Was Zapper flushed down the toilet as I said earlier? It's not like the game level even ended that way, and also why even change the game's style? It's the only level like this, and it feels like a completely different game. Actually, it reminds me of Red Faction 2, come to think of it. That has a level similar to this one, in which you end up in a submarine and have to navigate your way through to the final boss in an underwater level. In fact, it's just like that, as this pipe leads to the magpie's lair. Of course, it worked in Red Faction 2 because he used several vehicles before that point in the game from that perspective. But this game goes from Frogger to... I don't even know what this is. I can't even make a comparison right now. I'm just so perplexed that this part of the game even exists. As I said, it's really easy to miss items, and if you do, you'll just go back around and around and around in circles until you get them, which is tedious as all fuck, because all I want to do is collect one magpie and finish the goddamn level. Finally, after being given several minutes to contemplate smashing the game with a sledgehammer, I finished the level. Thank fuck for that. Finally time to move on to the final boss. Well, not exactly. At first you have to make your way through a series of puzzles. Pretty well designed ones, I have to admit. They start off frustrating as you begin to question as to whether or not the game's just given up and just fucked you over completely, or whether or not it's throwing you a clever curveball. But after I finally solved it, I actually felt pretty good about being able to figure the puzzles out. So you know what, props to the developers for that. Finally you face Maggie the Magpie, and this is where shit gets real. Now I'd like to point something out. At the start of the mission you have to collect 6 eggs. Don't know why, maybe it's a program requirement. Who knows, who cares. But this is where it baffles me as to why I even had to get eggs to begin with. Maggie actually uses the eggs as projectiles. She drops them on you and fires them out of her ass like a cannonball. So why did I have to go through all the trouble of smashing the eggs when it was quite clear that she didn't give a fuck about them to begin with? Hell, the clue should have been that she left them at a fucking calling card. It's like a Batman game where Batman goes around collecting Joker cards and holding them ransom. It's quite clear that she doesn't give a fuck about them. So why did I just waste an hour and 45 minutes of my life collecting them? Like anything else, this boss fight is annoying, but not too difficult. I was able to beat her after 2 attempts, which only happened because I lost most of my lives on the level before, so I had to try it twice. Not really a big deal really. I mean, my only complaint is that most of the enemies in this game are avoided. I mean, this is known as an avoid 'em up game. Well, with the exception of the Yosemite Sam motherfuckers in the desert. So, why in the holy mother of hell do I have to fight someone at the end of the game? I was hoping that I could just collect eggs and solve a puzzle and have her fall to her death. As this boss fight is, well, it's annoying. I honestly think that the last mission, the one before this one, should have been the final level. Not that this is the worst thing in the game, mind you. It's just, well, it's not really needed. It feels like they're just trying hard to make it be like other platformers. Perhaps a little too hard. I was afraid that this would pull some Little Big Planet bullshit on me and reveal that Maggie the Magpie just didn't have any friends, and that's why she was such a bitch. Thankfully, this game had a bit more dignity than that, otherwise I would have had to have smashed it with a spatula. So, after defeating the main bad guy, she falls off the edge of a skyscraper and plummets hundreds of feet to the ground. As she falls, we're treated to a nice look inside her digestive tract, going from mouthhole to arsehole, a nice little treat for the vorphiles in the audience. So, then the police turn up and... wait. What the fuck were they doing the rest of the time? I mean, it's not like she was being subtle, she was on top of a goddamn skyscraper for crying out loud. You know what? Fuck it. I'm not going to even question it. Let's just get to the end. So Zapper gets his antenna back, and Zipper regrets ever being born, as Zapper learns nothing and doesn't even grow a jot as a person. The end. Christ alive. You know, overall, I find it difficult to round off this game. On the one hand, it does have all of the faults that I mentioned before, but on the other, it's not so bad that it's unplayable. It's just frustrating, but achievable. It's a trial and error game for some parts and a patience game for the other. It's playable, but aside from a few wacky levels and art design choices, as well as a rocking soundtrack, there's no real appeal. I appreciate this might sound like I'm on the fence here, and it might sound odd, especially since I've done nothing but bitch about this game the whole time, but this game is a special kind of annoying, and a special kind of frustrating. I'd say that I have a love-hate relationship with this game. I can't say that my faults with it are due to the lack of effort from the developers, you know, like Little Britain or Dead State even, but I also can't say that this is a great game either. If you want to plough through a game in an afternoon, then you could do worse, but you could also do better. Much better. Well, I think that about wraps it up. Join me next time as I embark on an adventure that involves evil corporations, war in the Middle East, and high school girls. So it's 20 to 2 on Saturday morning now, and I was about to go to sleep, and I noticed that Wilson is now the size of, I don't know, just bigger than an apple, and he's all shriveled up. It's hard to tell really from this angle, but he doesn't look very well. He's close to death, and I don't want him to end up like the bunny, so I'm gonna have to euthanize him. Sorry, Wilson. It's better this way. You'd think this will be easy. Trying not to make a noise. God damn, he won't die. I'm not gonna lie, I'm terrified of him exploding and waking everybody up in the house. Why don't I have any sharp pens? Shh. It's okay, Wilson. It's alright. Okay, I've just put a hole in him, and he's still not popped. I don't even know what to do at this point. Got it. Tried everything to euthanize Wilson at this point, but he's not having any of it. He's not dying properly. I mean, bear in mind he's dying anyway. It's letting out air at least. That's it, Wilson. Just go to sleep. Goodbye, Wilson. Well, he's dead. I mean, I don't know what else I can do for him at this point. To eat. I mean, he's dead, really. There we go. That's the last of... That was his last breath, everybody. Wilson's dead. Bye, pal. You were an annoyance to my whole family. We wanted rid of you from the start. You were, a lot of things. You were the mascot of this channel, you were everything. But now you're a used condom. So, rest in peace, buddy.
All this time, staring me in the face. I was so far gone.
Wilson!
could have ended it right there. I was dead in the rain, lost in the race. All this time was with me when I was nowhere.